Sunday morning in Cooperstown, New York. The day is finally here. I think for the first time ever, I've overdressed and Bob is underdressed, or maybe he is exactly where he is supposed to be, right on time, like Buck O'Neil, and you still look better than me, which is the way it's supposed to be. It's finally here. What do you think?
It is here. It is here, and it's a moment that I've been thinking about ever since we got the news that he had been voted in back in December of last year, and so it's still a little bit surreal, but, you know, as we get closer and closer to that magic moment of his official induction, I'm sure that there'll be some tears shed.
It's an interesting place because everywhere you look, there are Hall of Famers, or at least signs of those Hall of Famers. And you've been around these guys forever, so yeah. I know you still think that's a cool thing. I wish that your late friend and your idol, Hank Aaron, was here. Of course, we wish Buck was here. But this is different because this whole weekend is about, in part, Buck O'Neil. So I'm curious your perspective on that, being around all these superstars that are here in part to honor Buck.
Yeah, it speaks to what Buck meant to this game. That some 16 years after his passing, his presence is still felt so strongly, and there's so much joy around his induction and inclusion now in the National Baseball Hall of Fame, even with the likes of Big Papi and others who are going in. Buck O'Neil's name is resonating just as much here in Cooperstown as those names, and of course those legends who have been here, who are still with us, who've been roaming around all weekend as well.
Well, Big Papi's got the big personality to go with it, so he's the attraction, and we're not all that far from Boston. But then again, when you talk about big personalities, that was Buck in his special way, too. I asked Joe Posnanski this question the other day. It's a question I've asked you many times in different contexts over the years. It's still one of my favorite questions to ask you. What would Buck think of all of this?
Oh, he would be genuinely joyous. I think he would still be overwhelmed by the outpouring of love that has come his way, and the fact that people were so vigorous in their belief that he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. And I know he would want to say thank you to all of his fans who kind of remained, again, vigilant through the last, well, up to that point, 15 years that he belonged there, and they never gave up on it. And so there's a level of vindication amongst those who carry that level of belief, and I know he would be very gracious and thankful for that.
He might also wonder right now, I don't know, why I haven't yet asked about Bud Fowler and Minnie Minoso, because he would want the attention on them. That's a significant part of this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, no, and you know, Buck was, there was not a self-serving bone in Buck O'Neil's body. And so, yeah, he would want to make sure that there was shine on Minnie Minoso, who was his dear friend, as well as my late, great dear friend, and Bud Fowler, the first black professional baseball player to play on white professional teams. And so they shouldn't be lost. This is a big weekend for black baseball in general, and of course with Buck O'Neil going in, a huge day for the Negro Leagues.
Well, you talk about being selfless, and I've thought about that a lot over the last few days. A lot of people have come to be surprised, as I think you were at one point too, that you would not be giving the induction speech. Yeah. At the same time, you talk about being selfless. Buck had the great line of, "Oh, that's how the cookie crumbles." Yeah. And there's protocol here, right? And so it will be family. But I'm wondering what that means to you in the sense that, well, first off, you get to sit there and dress in your Kansas City Monarchs gear instead of your greatest suit of all the many suits of all time. But how have you processed all of that?
You know, I had a chance to process it. And I'd be lying to you if I told you that I wasn't disappointed. But I understand. Yeah. You know, this is family, and the Hall of Fame's protocol is to extend that opportunity to the family, and they accept it. And so for me, it is now being a part of the audience, relishing in this historic moment, and continue to try to embody the spirit of Buck O'Neil. And then we'll turn our attention to the business at hand of trying to raise some money, just as Buck O'Neil would have wanted us to do.
Yeah. That never stops, by the way. The only difference will be, instead of Bob referring to him as the late, great Buck O'Neil, it'll be the late, great Hall of Famer Buck O'Neil. Yeah. And that changes later today, which is amazing. We have some really cool pictures of a younger Bob Kendrick with Buck O'Neil in his later years in life. Can you sum up what this man meant to you? I feel like we talk all the time about what he means to everyone, and we all feel a piece of him, whether we ever knew him or not, but you knew him on a different level.
Oh, no question. Buck O'Neil was one of my very best friends. He was my mentor. my confidant. And I feel so incredibly blessed to have had the opportunity to hang out with Buck O'Neil. They paid me, Joe, to hang out with Buck O'Neil. I would have done that for free. And I tell people all the time, and this is sincere, I talk to Buck almost every single day. Now, he doesn't always talk back to me, but I talk to him almost every day because of the wisdom that he imparted. And I tell people the smartest thing that I ever did was I kept my mouth closed and I listened. And I tried to apply the things that he taught me as we're making decisions in and around what to do at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum.
Because this man would find a silver lining in anything. I still hear the voice. I've watched so many of the clips on Letterman where Letterman thought that he was saying that he was a professional baseball player at 12 years old, and he goes, I wasn't that good, but I was good.
And he wanted people to know that he could play.
Right.
You know, we talked about that yesterday, all this ambassador stuff that everybody was talking about. Buck O'Neil said, I could play, and he could play.
And he could play. He also could make everyone feel so good about themselves. And I know everyone will feel so good about themselves today, especially everybody at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum and those that have been touched by Buck O'Neil throughout the course of their life or even well after his life. Bob, I know that this has been in the works for many, 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 many years. It is long overdue, but as Buck would say, he's right on time.
Right on time.
Thanks, Bob.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
So, man, thank you. And thank you guys for being here. This is so special for all of us at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. What an amazing weekend this has been.
To honor Buck O'Neil and all the other Hall of Famers, including Bud Fowler and Minnie Minoso of the Negro Leagues. And once again, even without a suit, he looks better than me. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Guys, back to you.